guys, welcome back to the WODdoc Project 365, episode 462. Today what we're doing is talking about mobilizing the hip flexors. For all of you guys that don't know, hip flexors are the anterior groin muscles, right? The tissues that are in the front, and they're responsible for bringing our knee towards our chest. Now, in that family of hip flexors, there's really two types. There's ones that go across two joints, and there's ones that go across one joint. We call those the 1 and 2 joint hip flexors. To prioritize the mobilization for the 1 joint hip flexors, we're going to keep the knee relatively straight because we want to be able to isolate all the tension in between the hip, right? To prioritize the mobilization onto the joint, to the 2 joint hip flexors, what we want to do is we want to use the knee and the hip. That way we can wind up all the additional fascia that would be in there and get a good stretch onto the 2 joint hip flexors, okay? So, first and foremost, what I'm going to show you is the 2 joint hip flexor one, because that one's the simplest one to start off. When I have a partner, I'm going to lay them flat down like this. I got my partner right here, Rodrigo, okay? So you're going to see he has really good hip flexor mobility, but for a lot of people that don't, as soon as you bring their knee into flexion, you bring their heel towards their butt, they're already going to start getting very tight into the thigh. Now the quads are, of course, 2 joint hip flexors. They cross across the hip and they cross across the knee. So the first thing I'm going to do with Rodrigo is I'm just going to bring his heel towards his butt. For a lot of people, that will be enough to start stretching those. If that's not, because in this case I don't have a whole bunch of tension, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold this tension and I'm going to start to pull up just like this. And you're going to see what I do is I just throw my knee underneath his knee right there. That allows me to kind of work into this extended hip position and really work on flexing the knee. The mobilization is going to become as I start to push his heel towards his buttock, okay? I'm going to hold that there for a count of 3, 2, 1, and I'm going to relax. I'm going to push that back down for a count of 3, 2, 1. I'm going to relax. Now, I can increase the intensity by lifting up his knee in the back and supporting it with my thigh. Now it's a little bit harder. But what you're going to see is sooner or later his hip will start coming off the floor here, and that's not what we want. Okay? So we don't want to go up any farther than when his hip starts to come up off the mat or off the floor, okay? But once we go ahead, what we're going to do is we're going to perform 10 repetitions just like this. We're going to press down, 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, relax back up just for a second, come back down, 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3. Once that 10 repetitions is complete, what we're going to do is we're going to let the leg kind of loosen up there. I'm going to put my knee on top of his butt. What that's going to allow me to do is that's going to allow me to pin his hip down to the ground, okay? That way I can isolate this mobilization onto the hip itself, all right? And it kind of looks like one of those WWF movements, or WWE now, right? That's what they got sued by the Wild Boy Federation or something like that. Anyway, you know, the WWEF guys, whichever ones you want to say. It kind of looks like that, but what we're doing is we're just going off of what he feels here. The first thing that Rodrigo will probably be able to tell you is that as I let his knee go into extension, he feels less into the thigh. And that's a good thing because I want to loosen up the thigh so that way I can concentrate and prioritize that mobilization at the hip. Next thing he's going to tell you is that there's more pressure down into the mat, okay? That's so I can use my knee as a fulcrum to kind of peel back. Now, again, Rodrigo's he's pretty fortunate that his hip flexors are really mobile, but for other people, it's going to be very difficult just to get their knee off the mat itself. So when I'm going ahead, I'm going to pull on this. As a partner, all I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the knee up, 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, and let it back down. Same rules. Let it down for a second or two. Bring it back up, 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3. Okay, I'm going to repeat that again for 10 repetitions. So I got 10 with the knee flexed. I got 10 with the knee not flexed and only flexing the hip, covering it with my knee, actually. So this is a great way to distinguish between 1 and 2 joint hip flexors and mobilize with a partner, okay? Cool? Cool? Guys, until tomorrow, rock, mods, and function. Talk to you.